everyone, welcome to my weekly edition of Show Me How It's Done. My name is Laura Nerbonis and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Edmonton, Alberta. Every Tuesday at noon, I love to post or go live with a little project to share with you guys. And today's video, I am going to be sharing with you the Abundant Beauty Decorative Masks. So in this set, there's a ton of different masks, and I know they look really small in this picture, but this is really how big they are. So this is the snowflakes, for instance. There's also houndstooth. There are some leaves. I just was playing with that one, so it's all dirty. And then there are these gorgeous sunflower masks that we're going to use on today's projects. So I'm going to warn you, our video today is a little longer than usual because I have a series of cards that I want to share with you. I want to show you how to use the masks, and then I want to show you how you can step up your cards in a really simple way to make a whole set of them and maybe have something nice to just wrap up with a bow and pass on to a friend. So without further ado, if you'd like to follow along with me, I have put all the measurements for the paper in our description comments, or I will also just give it to you as we go. You're going to want some sort of scrap paper to work on because these blends and blending brushes get really messy. Okay, so I also want to encourage you to choose whatever colors from your collection that you want to pick out. I'm going to show you the ones that I'm choosing today, and you can either follow along with that or choose your own. So I've got Lost Lagoon, Pecan Pie, Berry Burst, and Starry Sky. Those are the four colors we're going to continue to use on all of the projects. And I'm going to give the measurements for the pieces of paper kind of one at a time. But of course, if you're watching this after the fact, you can always just go to the description and cut everything at once. Okay, so we're going to start with card number 1. So this card here, we're going to learn how to use the masks and how to properly kind of play with them. So the pieces of paper that you're going to need to have cut are a card base. I'm using Lost Lagoon, and this one is 4 1/4 by 11. And then right here in the middle, I've put a score mark at 5 1/2 so that I can fold this in half and make a nice card base for myself. Okay, nice. There we go. On the front of the card, we're going to need a few papers. So I need Starry Sky, and that is going to be 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I need a smaller piece that is 3 3/4 by 5. For the inside of our card, you will want something in there because it's easier to have something to write on. And I cut myself a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 to do that. You can see I forgot to put it in that guy, and that's okay. We'll get to it. All right, so those pieces are ready to go. What we're going to do at the moment is just take our base or 2 color pieces aside, just put them over beside you. You don't need them at the moment. And then you're going to grab the smaller of the 2 vanilla pieces. This is what we're going to start with. And of course, you can always maybe do something with that larger piece later, but let's work on this. So here are, pardon me, how many? 4 pieces to this decorative flower that we're going to do. And if you notice, each of the masks has a little kind of cutout triangle on the top, and there's a number. It's very faint. I don't know if you can see. That one's number 1. So you're going to find the mask with number 1 and then go from there in your projects to do all the other ones. Okay, so number 1, you want this little divot facing towards the top of your page, or if you've decided to turn it, then of course you're going to need to remember to turn it on every consecutive project. So put your mask kind of centered on your workspace, and we're going to grab the Berry Burst ink pad. So opening this up just like a little makeup compact and sliding that into place. I need to move this card out of my way. I'm sorry, I don't want to get it inky, and I just kind of want to have a nice workspace available. So we're going to use blending brushes for this project. I'm using 4 of them just because I find it's a lot easier than switching between colors. I'd rather have dedicated colors for each of my projects. But just keep in mind they're only sold in a package of 3. So I've personally purchased 2 sets just because it makes my life a lot easier to have 6 of them available. I found I haven't really needed to go past that with a color scheme, but these are really, really great. They come in 2 sizes. This is the larger of the 2, but there is also a smaller head, so you can use that for some of the finer detail work on projects, but I found the large ones work well for me, and I happen to own all 6 large ones before the little ones ever came out. So to pick up ink on your blending brush, we're just going to go in a circular motion on your ink pad, and that will pick up a bunch of ink for you. Try not to get inky. If you really want to, you could always put just a little piece of double-sided tape under your white sheet and then tape down your masking sheet here. That is completely up to you, but I'm going to be daring and just try to do this while it's loose. So just go slow. The key is if you kind of notice you're making a mistake, just pause and you can easily kind of correct it, but just go nice and slow so you have time to notice that. Okay. So there we go. We've got our nice berry burst pink in there, and that was folder number 1. Then we're going to move on to folder number 2, which is our leaves, and I'm using Lost Lagoon for that. So just a reminder, you're going to find that little divot in your mask. You know this is now the top, it's facing the right way, and then you just kind of have to move it so you make sure there's a spot for all 3 of your leaves to show. We've got another blending brush, picking it up with a nice circular motion and just going over top of those leaf spaces. Sorry, I'm blocking you a little bit, but I do want to hold this in place. I'm putting pressure kind of where my mask and my paper are both resting. There we go. Okay, there's my leaves. Nice and pretty. I'm going to close that one up. I know it's a little tedious, so I'm suggesting if you want to make a set of these, you might just do 1 step at a time. Do a bunch of flowers, and then do the leaves, and then do the centers. But we're going to go in the order here because it's just easy. So pecan pie is what I'm going to use for my next step. I've got number 3 facing upwards, and this is just wide open circles. These are the insides of those flowers. Make sure you've put color in there, and then to keep your pecan pie open because you're going to use it for the next set as well. So this is just going to add a little bit of extra detail. So pick up some ink again, and you're going over those same circles with the decorative mask number 4, and you'll see how it kind of just adds a little bit of character to the middle of your flower. There we go. Okay, see? Just a little bit of detail right there. All right, that is everything. So if you decide that you'd like something put on the inside, you can always use that mask and do a little flower in the bottom corner here. But if you're ready to start attaching, then we're just going to grab these pieces and get building. So our paper that we've just done a bunch of embossing on is going to get flipped over, and we'll use a flat adhesive. That is not focusing. Flat adhesive to attach those together. So seal, tape, glue, whatever works for you. And we're going to attach that just to the Starry Sky base. All right, now turn the Starry Sky over And you're going to put dimensionals on the back of that piece because it does add quite a nice amount of character for you. This can get added just to the front of your card. All right, I know the workspace isn't very pretty, but it is practical, so we're just going to leave it there because I need it again. All right, here we go. Attached like so. On the inside, I'm just going to put this piece on. It's kind of going to be a long video for you already. I think one of my cards I did the inside, so I'll try and show you what that looks like. There you go. Okay, so to finish this card up, I thought it would be nice to have a little sentiment. And there isn't really a stamp that's glued to these masks. You can use a lot of different options. So the one that I chose was just from our annual catalog. This is Color and Contour, because I really liked these two in the bottom. Just a fun little script. You can see they are kind of matched quite nicely with flowers already. And so I'm just going to grab the thank you for everything and my pretty, or my stylish shapes dies. So I've colored, I've cut this out with the third largest of the stylish shapes dies, just out of a piece of vanilla. And we're going to stamp with Pecan Pie, our little sentiment here. So thank you for everything, right in the middle. And then you'll pop this piece up on dimensionals as well. And this can get added to your card front. So really, really easy way to use these masks. You can change up the colors, use whatever you want. I do have a few cards that I can show you at the end that use a little bit more traditional sets of colors, but I have been challenging my personal team this month to use non-traditional colors for projects. So if they're making Christmas cards, I want them to use something besides red and green. If they're making autumn cards, I want something besides yellow and orange. And so I thought this was a fun little way to kind of change up the sunflower. Kind of looks maybe like a Gerber daisy now, but it's really cute and kind of a fun way to use this color combination. So here is card set number 1. I'm going to move on to card set number 2 because this one I purposely made a recording so you can just pause and catch up, because in some of these cards now I'm going to start having things prepped and all I'm doing is showing you one little feature. So you're going to have to pause quite a few times, and I didn't want you to have to stress watching a live video and missing things. So get that pause button ready because we're going to move on to card number 2. It's very similar to card number 1. However, I don't know if you can tell, but there is a subtle difference just in the background on this card. So instead of leaving it just as a vanilla base, my second option for a card is going to use an embossing folder just to add a little bit of detail. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just get everything set up for that replication of my card. So I've got that same card base. It's 4 1/4 by 11. I've scored at 5 1/2, and I'm going to grab a piece for the inside that is 4 by 5 1/4. That can get attached and ready to go. On the inside, I think this one, yes, this one I did do a little bit of stamping or blending on the inside, so you can use those masks in your card as well. You don't have to save them just for the outside, but I'm going to put that in. On the front of this card, we have that standard piece of Starry Sky. So this one I'm going to pop up on dimensionals so it's ready to go as a base. And then we're going to do our masking and our embossing and kind of make a really fun background for this card. Okay, so I have already gone ahead and done all of my masking. I did the exact same color combinations. I have this piece ready to go. So all I'm going to do is grab my exposed brick 3D embossing folder, and I'm going to run that through my cut and emboss machine to give this really nice pattern. So take one look at it while it's not embossed. Just going to do it on the floor if that's okay, because I have so much stuff on my desk still to work with that it's going to be a little tricky to get it up here. I'll show you though, just keep in mind whenever you're using those 3D embossing folders, all you need is the base plate. This is that thick #1, and then the embossing plate goes with that as well. So this plate is one of the originals. It's blue. If you've purchased your machine in the last few years, it's probably gray. Okay, so don't stress, it's the same thing. And the gray one actually has a nice #4 printed in the top. This one you just kind of have to know. So we've got our base, got our embossing folder with the paper inside, and we've completed our little sandwich. So I'm going to roll this through. All right. See, it's so fun. You'll see it a lot more once it's in person, and feel free to use any embossing folder that you have. It doesn't have to be the exposed brick, but I like that this embossing folder isn't consistent. It doesn't have a uniform pattern all over it. And so I thought it looked really natural to kind of put that together with flowers, because they're never perfect. They look perfect in the end, but they end up kind of having all sorts of shapes and sizes. Funny angles too. All right, so we're going to attach this to the front of the card. And just like we finished off card #1, I have stamped on one of my little stylish shapes dies. I've popped this up on dimensionals, and I'm going to add it to the card front. Right like that. Okay, so card #1, not embossed. Card #2, stepped up a little bit because we embossed it, but still using the exact same techniques. So if you're doing this one, you'll need to take a moment and do all of your masking and stuff now, and then you'll be ready for card #3. Move that one out of my way, and I'll quickly show you in here. Here's how we're going to progress now. So this card, I'm going to add a little bit of twine, and I'm going to change the color a little bit with that mysterious starry sky that I told you to take out and we haven't used yet. I'm going to take away card #1. I will leave card #2 for a second so you can kind of see the difference, but we're working on card #3 here. All right, so card #3, you need to do all of your embossing exactly how you've done card #1 and 2. So it's just using the berry burst. We've got our leaves, we've got our center. I went ahead and did the embossing part because I didn't want to make you guys wait, but it would be easier if you just did this step now before actually throwing it through the embossing folder. Okay, so just do all your mask stuff first. Okay, so we're bringing back this adorable little large flower mask, making sure it's kind of lined up right over top of those flowers. And then we're going to grab the Starry Sky ink. Using my blending brush, just in a nice circle, I'm going to add color, not all over the flower, but just around this center, around the flower center. So I'm actually going to start on the flower center and just kind of rub off of it a little bit. Okay, so I'm not going all the way out to the tips. I just want that color to build up right in the center of my card. So you see I still have pink tips out here. Okay, it's a little hard to do a circular motion while you're holding the mask. This one you gotta go really small. There we go. Just the centers. Okay. But do you see what a difference that makes? You have now a whole new wealth of color that's kind of just brought to life after you've added the purple. You can do different shades, certainly with the pink. You could make this light and dark. But as soon as you add that purple in, you've got a whole new breadth of color. And this one you can see I did make my pink really dark, so it's quite a rich flower. This one's a little bit more distinctive, but it's still beautiful, okay? So I did go ahead and have that prepared ahead of time. It was the exact same paper size that the other ones have used. This one here is the 3 3/4 by 5. Then I'm going to grab some of my linen thread or twine, whatever you have on hand. And you're probably going to need about 15 inches, but I just say keep it on the roll because then you can, it doesn't really matter. You can move this and get more if you need. So give yourself a little bit of a tail, probably about 4 inches or so, and then wrap this around your card about 3 times. Okay, so we want lots of twine all the way around. And then we're going to just snip off the extra end before tying a little bow. So I kind of find it easier if you tie a knot onto your page here. Oh, that didn't work. I'm back. I was trying to tuck these all together so I can scoop them all into a knot, but didn't want to work. There we go. So move your knot kind of towards the left-hand side there because you do want space for that sentiment that we've been using. And we're going to tie just a tiny little bow. We've left ourselves lots of room to trim. So you can make this as large or as small as you want. Once you're happy, just trim off the edges. Okay. Then on the front here, we're going to add that little decal. So I've used the same size and the same color to stamp myself this thanks for everything. That's all ready to go. Pop that into the center here. And this is where you might have to play with your bow if it's kind of covering some of your letters. Just move it around. You can trim it if you need to. Now it's ready to get mounted. So I should have told you just at the beginning to cut 3 of these, or 4 of them, I guess. So this piece is once again 4 1/4 by 11. We've got a score at 5 1/2. For the inside of our card, we're going to grab that piece that is 4 by 5 1/4. And then on the front of the card, we have our gorgeous starry sky. Then I'm going to pop up on dimensionals, and then I will add my last little piece of paper here. Down, it's all popping up because I haven't used my bone folder. Need to give it a nice crisp fold. Stops moving. There. All right, and tape again, because that's the easiest. I kind of like to do a tape that covers all the way across those linen threads so that the spacing that I've decided I like just stays. It's not going to get bumped or moved. But if you're using glue, then don't worry, it won't really be able to do that. There we go. Perfect. Okay, and there is design number 3. So we've moved on from 2, we've added a bit of twine, we've added a bit of purple color, and now we're ready to go crazy and do one more card, right everyone? Okay, hopefully you're good. So I'm gonna move these out of the way. Keep this one, because it's beautiful. It looks nice, it just opens up like this. We've got a great looking card. But what happens if you decide to just up the ante and make a different card? So you're like, Lauren, this is very similar. It looks exactly the same. What on earth have you done? So I have decided to make this one a pop-up card. So this is an easel fold, and it is basically using the exact same pieces and card front, but we're just going to fold the base a little bit differently to make this card here. Okay, so I am going to move this one out of our way. I'm going to keep this one because it's actually quite easy for you to look at while it's laying flat. And we're going to chat about the base of our card first, okay? So the base, we are cutting the exact same. It's going to be 4 1/4 by 11. But we need to do 2 score marks this time. So our first score mark is going to be at 2 3/4, and our second score mark will be at 5 1/2. Okay, so we're gonna fold this one in half. That would make like a typical card for us, like this. But now this line here, we're gonna fold upwards and just make a nice crease. And if you can imagine, your card will kind of sit like this, like an easel. So we've got a triangle almost right there, okay? So we're gonna concentrate on the inside of our card first. It's gonna be this part here. And we're gonna do a little fun masking. So I've cut myself a piece of vanilla. This is 4 by 5 1/4. Then I've used my masking to do some shading just with one of the flowers on this piece. So this gets attached to the inside. I'm going to use tape for that because I like tape. And then we're going to grab a scrap piece of paper and do the smallest of the little sunflowers. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like. So we need something that pops up that our easel can bump against and kind of be held upwards. So this goes on the inside. Very nice, great. But I need a scrap. So it doesn't matter if I've kind of gotten extra colors hiding somewhere. I've made this beautiful little flower, so I'm gonna cut it out. You do have to fussy cut this. I know, you're probably really excited to hear that, but don't let fussy cutting stress you out. You don't need to go right up to the petals. In fact, it looks a lot better if you don't. Just go kind of close to them, follow the shape of the flower, and just come around all of your petals, okay? I did the same color combinations, starting with the berry burst and then adding a little bit of starry sky to this one. And we're just gonna go all the way around to cut this out. Takes a couple seconds, but it's so worth it. It looks so beautiful once it's ready. Okay, so our little flower is all ready to go. To attach this to the card, we're going to pop it up on dimensionals. And it can rest just kind of right above your large flower. You can use your fingers to kind of tilt some of these petals upwards so they look more natural. Then that just goes kind of right in place. So this actually would be like a beautiful front of a card too. If you wanted to just sit here and cut one of these out, I think this would actually look quite gorgeous. But the reason we did that is because with your easel feature, you need it to have something to be held up with. And that's where that flower up on the dimensional comes in. Okay, so let's work on the easel feature. So I've got this 2-part section, and what I've made is a card front that looks exactly like card number 3. We've done all of the work with the different colors. I've done the embossing, I've done the thread and my sentiment, but instead of putting this flat onto this space, I'm actually going to pop it up just in the bottom section on dimensionals. So there's no adhesive that touches this top section. The only adhesive is dimensionals that are going to rest in this bottom part. Chair is sliding away. There we go. Okay, so make sure you've got this nice and centered. That's why we leave it flat, but there is no adhesive that's actually going to be attached under this part here, this section in the top. Only the bottom's attached, so that when you bring this up, it folds and you can rest it against your flower. Sorry, it's always hard to get the right angle, so I hope that makes sense. We've just made sure we've got like a nice gorgeous card, and then when you pull it up, it will kind of rest on your flower. And you do have a bit of white space up in the top part here that you could write a little note. You probably just don't want to put anything down below, because if you've got this resting on a desk, then it would kind of look a little funny if you have like a note kind of right in here. But there you go. There are 4 cards for you in a nice little progression that hopefully have demonstrated how we can use our masks. Oh, here we go. How we can use our masks, how we can add a little bit of embossing to it, how we can add a color, a second color to our flowers, and how we can make an easel card out of that. There are your 4 cards for today. I know it's a lot. Before I let you go, I'm just going to give you a little heads up that last week on my video, I actually did feature the leaves mask that comes with this set. And so I made a really fun card last week. So you can go and look at my little plethora of videos in the past. And this was the card that we made together using this same color scheme actually, but trying out some different colors for the background. So I did some black, I did some starry sky, and I did some pretty pecan, and then we did some blending and kind of water spritzing in the back of these cards. So that's a fun idea if you're looking for something else to do with these masks. No, it doesn't want to focus. Come on, there you go. You can also go and check that video out. And to give you more ideas of what you can do, here are a couple cards that I received as swaps. So this is from Michelle Sturgeon. She made this gorgeous stamped card, kind of using that embossing technique in the background and very traditional colors, but I do love that sentiment. And then this card is from Karen Duke. She also tried 2 different colors in her flowers, and then she did a little bit of fine spritzing kind of with one of her inks, her ink markers. So there's 2 other ideas for you, and you can thank those ladies for that inspiration. But I look forward to crafting with you guys again next week. If you wouldn't mind giving this video a like, or even if you have time, putting a comment on it, that would be amazing for me. And if you need anything or have questions, please reach out. My website is on the bottom, so any supplies that you might need, you can order, or you can always send me a message and I'm happy to give you a hand too. But I will see you guys next Tuesday for another video, and I look forward to crafting with you soon. Bye.